A very good evening to you. And welcome along once again to Sweet and Swing here on Max Radio. My name's Howard Kane. It's a Friday night. It's probably raining, but stay in and listen to the music. What have we got? Well, a bit of Cyril Stapleton. More women of jazz. Erroll Garner. Not heard from Erroll for a while. Might get a bit of Stephane in. In fact, to start off, why don't you fall in love with me?
Feeling blue, I wanna know just how I stand with you. And now that you're in my embrace, this is the time, this is the place. As long as you're not in love with anyone else, why don't you fall in love with me? You're driving me crazy, baby, trying to guess. Will you tell me no, or will you tell me yes? You gotta go overboard for someone someday. Believe it or not, it's bound to be. As long as you're not in love with anyone else, why don't you fall in love with me?
That's a good way to get going, isn't it? Why don't you fall in love with me? Well, with the music anyway. You don't have to fall in love with me personally. Oh, won't turn it down if you do. Lovely to have your company as ever, H, in the Sweet and Swing studio. Studio 3, as it happens here at Max Radio this evening. Hope you're all keeping well, despite the... Well, spring can't be far away, can it? I mean, the bulbs have been out, the snowdrops have pretty much been and gone, and crocus, and in my garden the daffies were out, and then got almost flattened by the snow. I think one or two of them did snap off altogether. It's amazing how resilient they are, but and then, of course, it's just rained and rained and rained. So there must be some nice weather somewhere coming, mustn't there? We live in hope, don't we? Ambrose and his orchestra, with Anne Shelton taking the vocals with that wonderful, distinctive, deep voice of hers. I was just reading when I was listening to it, some wonderful lines about it in the old Bible, the England's second book of British dance bands. And she was, of course, born, not Anne Shelton, but Pat Sibley in 1923. And her voice was so unusually low that it's reported that her teachers refused to let her sing in the school choir. A fate which befell one Vera Welsh in North London a few years earlier, and a few years later, Kathleen Ferrier had the similar problem up in Lancashire. And Pat, as we know, like I said, just went on to become Anne Shelton. Vera, well, yes, you've guessed, haven't you, became Vera Lynn, of course. They also became very good wartime friends, I believe. And Kathleen Ferrier, well, she kept her name. Didn't harm her becoming one of the greatest classical contraltos of the 20th century. Billy Ternant heard her mature voice, invited her to sing with Jack Hilton's band. He was the deputy leader at the time. In 1936, in January, accompanied by her mother, and still, it is claimed, wearing her gym slip, Pat turned up at the studio to record Moanin' Minnie 2 months after her 12th, that's right, 12th birthday. Don't know if it'd be allowed these days, would it? I don't know. And then soon after leaving school, she appeared as Discovery, or a big discovery, on BBC's Monday Night at 8, where she was heard by Ambrose, who immediately invited the now ancient at 16-year-old Anne to join him at the Mayfair Hotel. And in no time at all, as Anne Shelton became a great wartime favourite, including, apparently, her fans, Bing Crosby, Glenn Miller and Winston Churchill, all great Anne Shelton fans. A lovely line here as well, a little story about her deep voice. Was unmistakable. I think you wouldn't mistake her with many other singers, would you? But apparently she did get a fan letter from a soldier who wrote to Ambrose saying how much he enjoyed the new male vocalist in the band. Anne, in the true professional form, didn't bat an eyelid and just sent him a signed photo in return. I like that. Very good. What are we next? Well, you know what? We'll stay, I think, with some of the classic bands. Why not? Why not a little bit of yeah, why not? A little bit of Don't Get Around That Much Anymore. Geraldo and his orchestra. Good tune, this one.
Missed the Saturday dance. Heard they crowded the floor. Couldn't bear it without you. Don't get around much anymore. Thought I'd visit the club. Got as far as the door. They'd have asked me about you. Don't get around much anymore. Darling, I guess my mind's more at ease, but nevertheless, why stir up memories? Being invited on days might have gone, but what for? Awfully different without you. Don't get around much anymore. No, no more. done, that's what for. Awfully different without you. Don't get around much anymore. Don't get around much anymore.
Great stuff. The Ellington classic Don't Get Around Much Anymore. Lovely tune, that one. Given a beautiful reading there by Geraldo and his orchestra. No details on the backing group or indeed the female vocalist either, which is make your own mind up on that one. Answers on a postcard, or of course just send them to me and say, I know that one. It's such and such. I'm sure someone out there does. Off the top of my head, I don't. The voice sounds familiar, but I'm not going to hazard a guess because I'll probably get it wrong. And then you'll all shout at me. Howard Kane at maxradio.com if you do know the answer. Be delighted to hear from you anyway, with any thoughts, ideas, requests. Send my way and we'll see what we can do. Now, we're still clearing out Music Man Towers. I know, yeah, it's quite a few years since the old Music Man himself disappeared, but yeah, we're still clearing stuff out, and I brought up some more CDs. Don't tell anyone. Secreted them into the archive here at the Black Satanic Mill on the Hill up at Max Radio. All sorts of goodies, I thought, which we could feature, would fit in nicely into the programme. What about a bit of Stephane Grappelli, for example? That's the way to do it. Effortless, isn't it? Stephane Grappelli with Django Reinhardt on the guitar. not all of the Hot Club de France, but some of them there. In any case, around about the 1930s from a collection. Like I said, one of the CDs which I've brought to Music Man Towers, a whole host of different goodies I found. I think we're on the last knockings of scratching round for things that we can enjoy here on Sweet and Swing, but enough to keep us going for another few years anyway. You'll be pleased to hear. Always love Stephane, and as I'm sure I've bored you with before, one of the few artists on this programme I can say I had the pleasure of actually meeting, and that the old Music Meister introduced me to him when he was in charge of the jazz club, I think it was, and Stephane was playing at the Villa Marina. It was the Gaiety, I think he played. The Gaiety. That rings a bell in any case. That's where I met him, certainly, backstage there, and I think we had a picture taken with the old Music Meister and myself, and Stephane, of course. And yes, backstage preparing for his concert. He was also going to play the piano. He was rather a good pianist, having had to play in younger years when he was at the Paris Conservatoire in order to make ends meet, because money wasn't that in abundance, as it were. His dad had scraped and saved to get him there, and in order to pay his way whilst working, or at least studying at the Conservatoire, where he excelled, he had to play as a pianist in the theatres around the area. And he played piano for the rest of his life, and would often then, in his concerts, play some piano numbers as well. So we wanted to do that at the Gaiety, I think it was. I just remember him being backstage and being with Dad, and he spoke English, of course, to a degree, and Dad spoke French to a degree, so it was an interesting conversation. Don't know who was more confused. And Stephane wanted to see the piano, and there was a piano there backstage. I don't know where it had been supplied from, but they said, "Here, Mr. Grappelli, here's the piano." He sat down, threw open the lid, and played a few runs, and then scowled round and said, "Mad."
Dream of a starlighted stream where my man and I would first meet. So try to surmise my terrific surprise when love beckoned in 52nd Street. I thought a breeze would appear in the trees and sing something tender and sweet. But how could it sing with a band playing swing when love beckoned in 52nd Street? Now when we want to cool, country lanes are taboo, and old West 52 is our favorite beat when we're on our feet. So you can bet I shall never forget that mad second when I first reckoned that love beckoned in 52nd Street.
our Cole Porter for this evening. We've been enjoying the music of Cole Porter, dipping in and out. I think we can do a few more of those yet. We might be on the last knockings of the Women in Jazz, our little mini-series. Perhaps one or two more. We'll see. I think there's one this evening, certainly, maybe one for next week. And then we might be on to something new, but we can carry on going with the music of Cole Porter. Lord knows there's enough of it, and all terrific stuff. Perhaps you don't know that one so well, though. When Love Beckoned from Dubarry Was a Lady. Leo Reisman and his orchestra in 1939, featuring Gertrude Nielsen on the vocals there. Leo Reisman himself, a violinist principally, and a band leader, of course, in the 20s and 30s, born and reared in Boston, Massachusetts, Jewish ancestry, and from German immigrants who headed out to the States in the previous century. He did pretty well for himself, maybe not a household name in the same way as some of the other band leaders we feature here on Sweden Swing, but he recorded for Columbia pretty much exclusively, I think, from 1923 through until 1929, when he signed up then with Victor and stayed with them for another 4 years until 1933. And then finally signed up with Brunswick and stayed there until 1937, when he went back to Victor again. I tell you, some things never change. It's just the clothes and the size of the trousers that disappears. Although, well, we won't argue the toss about the music themselves. I mean, it's different. We'll just leave it at that, shall we? Different now than the way it was in this programme. But he had a great habit of recording some lesser-known Broadway songs, some of which were not recorded by any other band, so I suppose he had a bit of a niche market going in there. Also had a habit of featuring composers and Broadway performers as band vocalists, the likes of Harold Arlen, Fred Astaire, Arthur Schwartz. Yeah, it'd be all right, wouldn't it? He could bring in the big names. A great recording he had was Happy Days Are Here Again in 1929. Of course, Lou Levin taking the vocals on that. Happy Days Are Here Again. Yeah, you know the one. And also had some popular #1 recordings with another Cole Porter classic, Night and Day. And also Conrad's The Continental. Yeah, you know it. So, he did all right. Perhaps not as well remembered as Glenn Miller and some of the other band leaders, but there were so many of them in the day that it was luck, I suppose, rather than skill, just how popular you actually became. Now, I promised you some Erroll Garner. I dug that out. Just had to blow a bit of dust off it. It's been a while since it's played. But being a CD, I expect Errol's blues will sound as fresh as paint. He could play, couldn't he? A wonderful touch on the keyboard. Erroll Garner. I often think I preferred him to sort of Art Tatum. I think the old maestro, he loved them both, and a lot of their acolytes, and Oscar in particular, and George Shearing and such like. But he, I think, of the two, preferred Art Tatum. I could be wrong. I'm fairly certain he did tell me that, or I knew that over the years in any case. Or maybe it was even Stevens, I don't know. Whereas I always think, Art Tatum is without doubt brilliant. Sometimes some people might think he's a bit florid, a bit over-exuberant, whereas Erroll Garner's a bit more laid back, isn't he? They're both fine pianists, so it's arguing the toss, really, what mood you're in, or, it's hardly worth debating because they're both brilliant and they both had wonderful music, and I enjoy them both. I'd say the old maestro as well, but maybe Errol's style just had that sort of slightly more space, a bit more air, a little bit more finesse, maybe. Is that fair? Errol's Jump, I think, is one of my favourites of his. Errol's Blues, we just heard there. Wonderful touch from Erroll Garner. No recording date on that one, which is a bit unfortunate, but it'll be around about the 1940s, I would imagine. Early 1950s on that one. You are, of course, listening to Sweet and Swing with myself, H. Lovely to have your company as ever. And as I say, any thoughts, anything you'd like to hear, haven't heard for a while, or see if I can dig out from somewhere, I'll always do my best. Howard Kane at manxradio.com. Caine is Kane, all lowercase. And we'll see what we can do. We've got another one of Father Sean's, I think, recommendations in a week or so. A stride pianist, modern, contemporary pianist, very good too. We took a bit of that out, Father Sean, so see what we can do on that one. This next one, I suppose I should have played a week or so back. Perhaps I'm a week late with this. Still a little bit knocking round, though, if you look up onto the hill. Certainly was one round Cronkavody when I came in this morning, despite the rain. Snowfall. Oh, it's been a favourite of mine since the first time the old maestro played me that one, actually. Snowfall, Claude Thornhill. and his orchestra. Terrific stuff. Like I said, a little bit late, although amazingly, despite the fact we seem to have had 80 gallons of rain, there's still bits of snow tucked into pockets up on the hills, I notice. So as long as it stays there, we don't mind. It would be nice to see a little bit of dry, sunny weather, wouldn't it? I mean, you know, you always think by the time you get to the more than halfway through March, you are into spring, but spring quite often doesn't spring until sort of well into April on the Isle of Man, does it? And let's face it, snow is not unheard of in April. I can also remember seeing white in June, actually being up the mountain during TT one year, when it suddenly hailed like Billio, and the ground around was white for a while. But it was one of those typical Manx days where, you know, you started the day, it was a bit wet, and then it all looked all right. And then I think they might have had a race, I can't remember. And then it's, oh gosh, there's some bad weather coming in. And then, yes, this sort of clouds came in and it started hailing up the mountain. Amazing. I remember having my coat on, and I found some gloves in a pocket, I think maybe in a woolly hat or something. And then later the same day, by the end of the day, everyone was stripped off in shorts and T-shirts and the sun was out and it was lovely. That's the Isle of Man and being up in the mountain for you, isn't it? And indeed the TT. If you ever want weird weather, wait for the TTs to arrive and you almost certainly get some. Here's one I dug out as well of the trusty attic one that came our way quite recently. Didn't have to blow the dust off this one though, so it might have been played a little bit more recently, shall we say? I don't know. Maxine Sullivan, Bob Wilbur, Close as Pages in a Book is the name of the collection. And this track is Harry Warren's Too Many Tears.
To have a good old-fashioned cry once in a while isn't so bad. For when you've had that little cry, then you can smile, you can be glad. But when there's too much sorrow, you know that there is bound to be too many tears. Each night I go to bed, I lie awake and shed too many tears. Your memory is bringing me too many years. I cared a lot, what have I got? Too many tears. I know I should have found a new love, and don't you think I didn't try? But I found lots of number two loves, never seemed to satisfy. I never learned to smile again and sing. I gave you everything, and in return, what did you leave for souvenirs? Too many tears.
Lovely stuff, a beautiful recording as well. Gorgeous, really nice. The bass and the cymbals there on the drums, beautiful. And the voice, of course, of Maxine Sullivan with the Bob Wilber Band. Don't give any details, which is rather annoying. At least if they are, I can't find them, of the actual band. Or do they? Anything down here? Let's see. Oh, no, wait a minute. We might have some luck yet. Yes, not where I thought they were going to be, but they are there. So Maxine Sullivan on vocals, as we imagine. Bob Wilber, as I say, leading the band there. And soprano saxophone on that particular track. Bernie Layton on piano. George DeVivier bass. Gus Johnson Jr., he's a fine drummer, on the drums there as well. And Too Many Tears, the Harry Warren Al Dublin song from 1932, but recorded there a good 37 years later in 1969. Some lovely little notes from Maxine herself contained on the liner notes. It's weird how some of these CDs, some have nothing whatsoever, just list the tracks and that's it, that's your lot, and others have really some great information, interesting stories and snippets and things about the recording. In this particular case, within the booklet within, you have some nice lines from Maxine herself commenting on each of the songs. And on that one, on Too Many Tears, she said, I first heard this song at a local vaudeville theatre in my hometown, Homestead, Pennsylvania. It was background music for a troupe of singers midgets, mind boggles, who were dressed in penguin costumes. As you do. Of course, I really learned it from a recording by Ruth Etting, or maybe it was the Boswell sisters. And then there's a note from the producers in brackets saying we knew it from a Carmen Lombardo vocal with Brother Guy's Royal Canadians. One or the other. Lovely tune in any case, isn't it? And really given it a beautiful reading there. I didn't realise there was a direct link, you might be ahead of me, I don't know, between Maxine Sullivan and Claude Thornhill. I didn't actually have the two of them together, but reading this, the notes by Bill Borden reminiscing about Maxine Sullivan and several others, as it suggests. He says, I heard of Maxine through a Liberty Music Shop salesman named Van Norman. He played me one of those old-time listening booths, the Claude Thornhill record on Vocalion of Gone with the Wind, which Maxine mentions in her comments. I'd never even heard of Claude Thornhill, he says, although later I realised I had seen and heard him play with Ray Noble's first American orchestra at the Rainbow Room, as well as the Princeton Prom. Anyway, this was Maxine's very first recording I was listening to, and it was, interestingly, the last on which she received anything less than star billing. The explanation for this change of fortune, he says, can be made in two words: Loch Lomond. Claude Thornhill not only picked this tune, but also picked her new name. Maxine Sullivan, her real name being Marietta Williams. In the fall of 1938, Claude was hired by Alex Holden, Hal Kemp's manager and partner, who was starting a new band for Skinny Ennis, Kemp's drummer and breathless vocalist, as musical director and chief arranger for the band on the Bob Hope radio show. The only reason I knew Holden and Ennis was because Brooks Bowman had introduced me to Hal Kemp when he'd made a recording of East of the Sun. Meanwhile, Maxine went her own way. By that time, she was, of course, Mrs. John Kirby, and a star of considerable stature. Claude organised his own big band in the winter of 1939-40, and I went on to become his first and principal staff arranger. And on it goes. But yes, so Maxine Sullivan, where did her stage name come from? Claude Thornhill. I would like to say I deliberately played Claude Thornhill before that, but I didn't. It was just I happened to spot it there. I was thinking about the snow had spotted some this morning and thought it would make a nice piece, as I love playing it so much in any case. But often the way on these shows, there's so many interlinks. That's what I love about it so much. Right, one of the women of jazz. Who we've got? In the rocking chair. Is it? No, we haven't. We're rocking, though. We are rocking. The castle's rocking, not the chair. The whole castle. My castle is rocking. With Alberta Hunter.
Come on by some night, my castle's rockin'. You can bust your conch, 'cause everything's free. On the top floor, in the rear, is where I am residing. The stuff is here, and the chicks fairly romp with glee. You don't have to be afraid, 'cause I'm paying the boys to protect me.
Tell them cats downtown they can let their conscience be. Come on up, bring your gang. We'll start that ball a-rolling. My castle's rocking. Run on by and see. Go for yourself now, Eddie. In the groove, every living human. Y'all better shut that door. I believe I see them cops coming. Look over there in that corner. Ain't that a mess? Come on up some night, my castle's rockin'. You can bust your conch, cause everything's free. On the top floor, in the rear. That's where I am residing. The stuff is here, and the chicks fairly romp with glee. You don't have to be afraid, cause I'm paying the boys to protect me. Tell them cats downtown they can let their conscience be. Run on up, bring your gang. We'll start that ball a-rolling. Say my castle's rockin'. Tip on by and see. Yeah.
very nice indeed. One Note Samba from Stan Getz. Bit of a twofer there for you. Hope you enjoyed that one. We always like our twofers, don't we? Or the odd threefer from time to time. Stan Getz, perhaps one of his better known numbers, and still very popular today. One Note Samba. Or indeed, a samba de uma nota só. Jobim. How do you say it? I don't know. Jobim. I think it is Jobim, I believe it is. I'll be corrected by someone in any case. A nice one, Stan Getz with... who's in company with... it's one of the smaller bands, isn't it? Stan with Charlie Bird on guitar, Keta Betts bass, Gene Bird on the bass guitar, and Bill Reichenbach and Buddy Deppenschmidt on drums and percussion. Always a good number. Before that, our Woman in Jazz. Really enjoyed that one, I must admit. Great, really sort of raw voice, but full of humour, I thought. I was liking that sort of, yeah, come on you cats, and, don't let those cops in there. Real sort of down, homely, no messing from Alberta Hunter, a blues pioneer and composer, indeed, of the track we heard there, My Castle's Rockin', and a singer. Started recording in the early 1920s and was actually on 78s with Louis Armstrong and Fats Waller and Fletcher Henderson, and lived in Europe for a decade. Not prominent in America when this early version of her theme song was made, but as it says, her great, bold, brash sound is very well represented in this particular recording with the piano backing, and she references him. Hey, come on, Eddie Hayward Jr., who was then a member of Benny Carter's orchestra, complimenting her particularly well. Right, I promised you some Cyril Stapleton, and if I don't warble on too much, we can fit in a little bit of a rather appropriately sleepy serenade. Oh, what a lovely way to finish off. Cyril Stapleton with Sleepy Serenade. Hope it hasn't made you too sleepy. You managed to get through to the end of the programme. Good way to finish, though. That's about it for another week. Don't forget howardkane@manxradio.com if you'd like to get in touch with any thoughts. Look after yourself, same time, same place next week. Cheerio.